Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow is an epic space saga from DC Comics and serves as the biggest inspiration for the upcoming Supergirl movie. But what's this story all about? Is it really as good as people say? Who are the confirmed characters from the comic that will appear in the film? That's what you'll get to see right here. Let's dive into another full story here on the channel. And finally, it's time for Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. So make sure to hit that like button on the video and let's check out every detail. Part 1. Supergirl, Krypto, Ruthye, and Krem of the Yellow Hills. The story kicks off with something that'll be pretty common throughout. Narrations from one of the main protagonists who isn't Supergirl, but a young alien named Ruthye. These narrations are from her future, recounting the adventures we'll witness on her journey alongside Supergirl. At the start, we see a younger Ruthye talking about how a criminal named Krem of the Yellow Hills killed her unarmed father. The girl later finds her father's body and wonders why the criminal left the weapon there, but she admits that even now, she doesn't get it. She then introduces us to her family. She's the youngest in a clan of 6 siblings. That night, they discuss having revenge for their father, but in the end, the siblings agreed to leave that to divine providence. However, Ruthye doesn't see it that way. Late that night, she decides to seek out revenge on her own. Her mom is waiting for her, but says she knew her daughter would make that decision and tells her to take her father's mount, saying that at this moment, all she has in her heart is vengeance. So she rides off on that creature, setting out on her mission for revenge. Right from the get-go, this story carries a legendary tone. In those first pages, we see that Ruthye's planet has a culture very different from what we're used to here on Earth. They have their customs, gods, and ways of life. It's truly a richly developed universe. Ruthye heads to a bar in a nearby city where she meets a guy who's been drinking. She explains with all due honor and respect that she's seeking revenge and that she'll give him this rare sword if he carries out the request to kill Krem. However, being still an innocent girl, she believes him when he accepts the offer and says he'll go without her. But when she insists he follow her instructions, he attacks her and steals her sword. The problem for him is that a mysterious figure who has been drinking quietly at the bar for some time interrupts and demands he return the sword and scram. The guy underestimates her because she's a woman and rips her clothes. And at that moment, we see it's Supergirl with Krypto by her side. Supergirl nails the guy with the jug, but gets hurt in the process. She remembers that she and Krypto are under a red sun, but even so, the guy is easily taken down by Supergirl. Right off the bat, we notice she's wearing an outfit that conceals her classic uniform with the House of El symbol. And that's Supergirl's introduction in the story, appearing out of nowhere in the chaotic scene at the bar like one of those background characters just hanging out there. She overdid it on the drinks and wakes up later finding Ruthye taking care of her. The girl comments on Supergirl's strange outfit, and while bringing her a bucket to throw up in, mentions witnessing the hero's bravery and skill. She then offers a deal for Supergirl to kill Krem of the Yellow Hills, and Supergirl's first response, she barfs right in front of her. A while later, Supergirl is getting ready to leave, explaining that she came to this planet because it was her birthday and she just wanted to drink some wine from the area. In the end, she tells the girl not to kill people because that's bad. Future Ruthye reflects that if she hadn't followed Supergirl, she might have died on her revenge quest. After some time swimming, she arrives at Supergirl's ship. And first, this girl who will accompany Supergirl on her journey is quite innocent, all proper and polite, but her determination for revenge doesn't waver. Ruthye is amazed by the ship's technology. Supergirl warns her to step back as the ship's auto-launch has been activated and could hurt her. Supergirl tries to make her move away again, but Ruthye repeats her speech about the deal to take down Krem of the Yellow Hills. She attempts to explain that she doesn't kill people, and that what she seeks is injustice. At that moment, the girl screams that she doesn't know how she feels, her anger, how she lost her world when her father died. In her future narration, Ruthye explains that Supergirl knew what it was like to lose everything, but back then, she didn't know anything. Finally, in the present, the hero seems ready to say something when an arrow strikes her in the chest. The attacker, Krem, who that guy from the bar brought to her. The killer also shoots at Krypto. Both Kara and Krypto are under a red sun, but that doesn't stop the heroine. Supergirl charges that crime, claiming that she is Supergirl and doesn't care about swords and arrows. This is really the first impactful moment of Supergirl in the story, as her introduction was a lighter and more laid-back fare. Krem and the bar guy are terrified of her, while Supergirl, furious, asks if they have any idea who she is. When Kara says I'm Supergirl, she quickly knocks out the bar guy again, and when she could finish off the killer, she turns her attention to Krypto, who's struggling with the arrow. Krem then escapes into the ship, kicking the girl who tries to attack him. As the ship's launch sequence activates, Krem manages to escape, taking Supergirl's ship off that planet, leaving Ruthye behind with an injured Supergirl and Krypto.
Part 2. The beginning of the journey.
The story then cuts to Ruthye and Supergirl on what looks like a budget space bus. The girl has to endure an alien sleeping next to her. When Ruthye starts explaining her whole situation and that she's with Supergirl, the big guy gets so confused that he passes out. As she looks out the window on this long ride, the girl fantasizes about how she would take out the terrible Krem. Since the trip is long and rough, of course, there are the usual pit stops for food and bathroom breaks. On one of these stops, Supergirl mentions that interplanetary trips would be way more fun if she were fully powered and could fly. Later, a mercenary causes trouble for Supergirl because some of his family were locked up by Superman. And in a pretty funny moment, when the guy asks if she's really Supergirl, Kara replies, "I've got a big S on my chest on her classy red skirt, so how could I not be Supergirl?" And she quickly knocks out the mercenary out with ease. Ruthye explains that this pit stop is just one of many examples where criminals had tried to hurt Supergirl to get to Superman, thinking she's the weak link. And of course, that's the mistake they all discover the hard way.
After that, a strong memory for Ruthye hits when, at one of the stations, Supergirl fights a creature called the Carpane Dragon all on her own. The whole station and the ships would be destroyed by it. However, Supergirl ends up using a red kryptonite pill she snagged from one of the passengers. And since the effects of red kryptonite vary each time it makes contact with a Kryptonian, in this case, it drastically amps up Supergirl's powers. In Supergirl's fight, Ruthye recounts how she's heard many fantastic stories and might be prepared for what she saw that day, but that battle stayed in her mind forever. During a trip's pit stops, Ruthye also remembers an important conversation she had with Supergirl in the bathroom. The girl's surprised to see the hero washing her hands. This leads the Supergirl to be kind and teach Ruthye his habit that isn't very common on her planet. She explains everything calmly until Ruthye bluntly asks if Supergirl has ever wanted to avenge her family's death. Supergirl's response is a harsh no, but the girl feels that response was filled with regret throughout her life. One night on the bus, Ruthye recalls Supergirl using her strength on a passenger who was bothering her. When they're almost at their final destination, the girl mentions that after Supergirl saw Krypto hurt, she paddled a boat taking both her dog and Ruthye to a doctor. But the doctor told her that the arrow that hit Krypto was poisoned, and that to save him, they needed a dose from the hunter who shot him, as each one prepares the poison differently. So that day, Supergirl asks if Ruthye can recognize Krem, no matter what form he's in. The girl replies that she can, and at that moment, Supergirl accepts the deal to hunt down the killer Krem in exchange for Ruthye's sword. Part 3. Krem is the target.
Kara and Ruthye arrived at their final destination, a planet called Goron, where they have a lead that Krem had been locked up in a city on this planet called Maple. They're about to find out that this city has a terrible secret. They arrive at the city's police station and ask the officer if there are records about Krem, who was arrested in the city about a month ago. The curious part is that this cop is evasive with his answers, claiming the records could be wrong while also pushing them to leave. This cop was stacking up some letters, and Supergirl loses her patience and kills his vibe. Later at a hotel, something catches Supergirl's eye. When she goes to Sightman, she notices that a question asks if she's purple or blue, and notices that there haven't been any signatures from purple folks in a long time. When she tries to ask more about it, the receptionist is brusque and shuts down the conversation like the cop did. The next day, Ruthye remarks that the city feels like any other, with families living their lives and a normal daily grind. Supergirl uses her X-ray vision all over the city looking for Krem, but doesn't spot him. However, she soon notices that everyone in town is blue, and that raises some red flags for the hero. At a diner, she sees a sign stating that purples aren't allowed and asks the waitress about the roll. This time, the answer is heated, and the waitress yells at the planet's inhabitants didn't want Supergirl there, claiming she destroyed their planet and didn't want her messing up what's left. Supergirl and Ruthye keep searching for the killer, hearing different versions of the law regarding purple folks, but no one wants to elaborate. Everyone says it's always been this way and that everything's fine in the city. That night, Ruthye goes through a traumatic experience. Supergirl wakes just in time to protect her from a barrage of bullets in their room. Ruthye comments that back on her planet, death is treated as a respectful visit, and that the inhabitants see it as common. But that night, seeing death so close up scared her, and she cried. After the shooting, Supergirl makes sure Ruthye is safe and flies out of the room. The next day, they visit the town's mayor, who does nothing and doesn't believe we were actually attacked. Supergirl, already suspicious for some time, says they're hiding something, so she smashes the mayor's desk, leaving him speechless. There's an interesting moment when Supergirl mentions that she's regained her powers and needs to fly, but she'll have to take Ruthye with her. The girl realizes Supergirl didn't want to take her since she spent her whole life on the ground and isn't used to such powers.
With that, Supergirl scans the area and notices something shady. Using her power, she digs and discovers a plaque and many bodies. Supergirl breaks into the police station they visited earlier and finally uncovers what happened in that city. Before they arrived, the wealthiest and most abundant were blue-skinned aliens, while the purples, who were in the minority, were treated like inferior beings. As a result, the purples were expelled to a small village outside the city called Purpletown. The situation worsened when the Barbon's brigands showed up for fun, massacring planets. These thugs would show up announcing they were going to wipe everyone out, demanding a hefty price for the city to be spared. On this planet, even the rich blues couldn't pay to save themselves from destruction. Krem, who was imprisoned in that city, offered a solution. He spoke with the brigands and brought the money they were looking for, leading them to the Purple Village. There, they mercilessly slaughtered everyone. After this, the brigands liked Krem so much that he ended up joining the group and left with them. The impact of this story runs deep. Ruthye can't wrap her head around how these folks can keep living normally. She ends up saying that events like this are way too big and they're too small in comparison. This part of the story is heavy. The metaphor about what happened in the blue and purple city is crystal clear, and this is just the beginning of what this duo is going to face regarding what these thugs are capable of.
Now, with Krem on the loose, the story advances, showing Supergirl and Ruthye following the trail of destruction and death Krem and the brigands are causing. On several worlds, they hear tales from survivors, including a woman trying to dig graves for hundreds of dead from her world, including her daughter, whom she hasn't been able to find. Hearing this, Supergirl urges her to do the work herself, and the hero digs all the graves. Afterward, she tells the woman she found her daughter's body. At another point, Supergirl comforts another mother from a giant race who lost her entire family. To let the mom vent, Supergirl agrees to take several hits from her since that's a common way to express frustration in that race. After that, the giant receives a warm hug from Supergirl, who consoles her. All these moments of Supergirl connecting with the survivors are truly impactful. The climax of this trail of destruction comes when they reach a planet marked by so many atrocities where there are pinpoint records of what happened. To protect Ruthye, who shouldn't see what the brigands and Krem did, Supergirl goes alone to check the records. After some time, when she returns, Supergirl doesn't seem well and is clearly shaken by what she saw. In another situation, the inhabitants of that planet manage to catch one of the brigands and stone him to death. The most haunting part is that Ruthye and Supergirl are there during this judgment. Ruthye mentions that she thought Kara would save the thug, but Supergirl takes a deep breath and watches the execution. On another planet, Supergirl is devastated to see a city of peaceful beings she knew now completely destroyed. She can't scream since the structures of the planet's castles are in ruins. Then she flies at top speed toward the sun and lets out an immense scream when she arrives. At that moment, Ruthye, who spent a good while with Supergirl, observes how the hero always maintains her composure, just like Superman, but unlike him, she's lived much of her life in pain. If you were to ask if she's okay, Kara would say yes, and still ask Ruthye if she needed anything.
This whole pursuit journey for the two seems to find an end when they finally locate Krem on a planet devastated by him and the brigands he's with. But he was waiting for Supergirl to arrive. The killer employs a rare magical item called the Mordru Globe, which affects Supergirl and teleports them to an unpleasant place, especially for a Kryptonian. This planet has a specific sun, a green sun, that immediately hurts Supergirl, making her vulnerable. Supergirl has been to this place before because Superman had also been there, but he was there for less than an hour. Now the two have at least more than 10 hours until sunset. The place is also crawling with dinosaurs ready to kill them, and it's up to Ruthye to protect Supergirl, who can barely get up. The girl ends up fighting the dinosaur to shield her. It's an intense and tough battle, but Ruthye defeats it using Krem's sword.
She waits for the sun to set and discusses with Supergirl about drinking water from a nearby lake. It's clearly a trap for anyone who ends up stuck there, making them an easy target for the dinosaurs. In the end, Kara gives up, but just before sunset, another giant dinosaur appears. Courageously, Ruthye tries to face it, but finds it overwhelming. Fortunately, there's time for the sun to set, allowing Supergirl to regain some of her strength and take down the creature. After 10 hours of suffering on that planet, and after taking some time to recover more of her powers, Supergirl returns to confront the cruel killer.
Part 4. The origin of Supergirl and the future.
As the two return to the planet where they spotted Krem, Ruthye reveals that she heard Supergirl's origin story. She recounts how she was just a student on Krypton when she witnessed her world perish. Meanwhile, in the present, Supergirl ambushes the brigands and Krem. The killer reveals he has another one of those magical globes and releases it near Supergirl. As she tries to run from him, Krem claims that no man or woman can escape that globe.
Supergirl then responds that's why she has her glorious magical horse Comet with her. She shouts for him to race to the edge of the universe, and off she goes, galloping across the galaxy. Supergirl's origin story weaves in with Ruthye's narrative, where she tells how her father, Zor-El, managed to save her family and other citizens of Krypton by recreating part of the planetary atmosphere into a sort of globe. However, the asteroid's air became toxic, and among the first to die was Supergirl's mother. To slow down the poisoning of the air on the asteroid, which housed Krypton survivors, Supergirl's father, a scientist, tried various plans with his daughter's help. As Supergirl rides with Comet, Ruthye continues her tale, stating that the asteroid's inhabitants kept dying. The asteroid floats in space until a solar storm approaches, and Supergirl's days are numbered. Her father reveals the only hope just for his daughter, a ship designed by his brother, Jor-El, for his son, Kal-El. With limited resources, the ship could safely carry only one person. In an intense and heartbreaking moment, Kara says goodbye to her father. Ruthye, hearing this, realized it was yet another moment where Supergirl saw light slipping away around her. Nevertheless, Supergirl was only 14 at the time and went through all of that. After that, in the present, the story shows Supergirl arriving at what seems to be the end of the universe, where colors no longer exist. As she rides with Comet toward the end of the universe, the colors start to fade. After the whole journey, that magical globe loses its power, and upon touching it, it simply vanishes from sight. To Krem's despair, Supergirl returns with Comet to the planet where he was, and this time he doesn't have those magical globes anymore. Ruthye adds that Supergirl doesn't care about swords and arrows. Next, Ruthye finds herself on another planet talking with Comet. Supergirl is in space, ready to face the ship and all the thugs on her own. Ruthye mentions to Comet that Kara doesn't fully trust her, and at that moment, Krem is tied up and gagged to a tree. In space, Supergirl was bombarded by rampant and highly explosive bombs, resulting in a moment where she's momentarily stopped. Meanwhile, Ruthye wants to speak with Krem to learn more about the poison he used on Krypto. After offering several arguments, Comet is convinced as she begins to communicate with the man who killed her father.
In space, Supergirl activates her battle mode and attacks, destroying the thug's ship. Back to Ruthye, Krem tries to destabilize her by saying her father was nobody, attempting to belittle his death right in front of her. Moreover, the killer tries to justify his actions, claiming her father insulted the king of the planet, so he was somehow in the right. While this is happening, in the future narration, Ruthye explains how these thugs Supergirl is facing were the brightest assassins who feared nothing. However, that day, she realized it was the first time the brigands faced a contender like Supergirl.
But soon, Supergirl runs into difficulties. Meanwhile, Krem, of course, isn't begging for his life, and asserts that whether defeated by the brigands or by Supergirl, he'll come out of it alive. During all this, something catches Comet's attention. Supergirl's having a conversation with him, while the thug thinks she's pleading for her life. And in reality, she's begging Comet not to go to her for help. Ruthye notices that the horse is genuinely agitated, and swears on her father's grave that she won't do anything against Krem, telling Comet she's going to help Supergirl. The problem is she lies straight to his face. In the narration, Ruthye admits that she felt terrible guilt at that time, but over time she overcame it. Lying directly to Comet was inexcusable, but he believes her and rushes to the thug's ship to save Supergirl. Krem threatens Ruthye, telling her what will happen to her family and planet if he survives or if the brigands see Supergirl. The girl, nonetheless, doesn't want to take revenge on her father by killing him in the same way he did, unprepared and unarmed. So she decides to untie him. Meanwhile, in space, Comet gets injured trying to protect Supergirl, revealing his true centaur form. For anyone who doesn't know or remember, Comet has different forms, which has been shown in Supergirl comics. Continuing the story, Supergirl's enraged and breaks free. Ruthye, for her part, keeps the sword out of reach from Krem, allowing one of them to grab it. Thus, they face off in a deadly duel. The two battles intertwine at this moment. Ruthye narrates how she learned to fight with Supergirl throughout their journey, and delivers a solid kick to Krem, while also striking his face. When the killer falls, Ruthye bites his arm and takes the sword. At this moment, she begins reciting a monologue she had memorized to say before killing Krem. She talks about her father and one of the happiest memories she had with him. Sword in hand, just about to deliver the final blow, she hesitates. Here we reach the almost conclusion of the comic, where we see Ruthye having a catharsis. After trying to deliver the first strike that killed Krem, she attempts others, but always hesitates. Something holds her back in that fatal moment. After that, Supergirl appears, injured, carrying Comet in his original form. She tells Ruthye that this is Comet, confirming he died protecting her. Supergirl states the brigands are retreating and that she's going to pursue them to finish the job. Then she takes the sword and reveals to Ruthye that the reason for saving Krypto and the poison was a lie, ensuring the dog is fine and will survive. She wanted Ruthye to accompany her, as she didn't want her to learn that revenge is the right path. If that happened, the girl would spend her whole life seeking revenge, just like she dreams of Krypton. With all this, Supergirl holds the sword and turns to straight Krem. She tells Ruthye that indeed she hasn't learned, because Kara herself still dreams of Krypton. Just as Supergirl, hopeless, prepares to deliver the blow, the girl shouts that she's learned. At this moment, Supergirl demonstrates that while she wanted to give this lesson to Ruthye, she was also trying to overcome her own traumas from the past on Krypton. Ruthye recalls Supergirl's kind gestures throughout their journey, the impossible feats and the strength she displayed. Ruthye used to think the world was a complete chaos, and she began to believe that when someone as generous as her father was assassinated so coldly. But Ruthye states that people like her, without hope, will learn about the legend of Supergirl, someone who lost everything yet kept going. Ruthye approaches Supergirl and says that too much death has already been committed and that they need to find another way to punish Krem. Supergirl then lowers the sword and replies that it's too big and they're too small. Thus, the story jumps to the future, where the narrator of the tale, the girl Ruthye, is now quite old. Supergirl appears in a different outfit with Krypto by her side, showing that a lot of time has truly passed. They seem to have something planned to do nearby, and Supergirl praises the book Ruthye wrote about their journey. Supergirl also reveals what punishment they decided, to leave Krem trapped in the Phantom Zone for 300 years. She mentions that in the last century inside that prison, the killer became a model prisoner, seeming to possess a different heart now, illustrating that there is always hope. And then we see Krem has also aged. and as he leaves prison, he thanks Supergirl, saying she saved him. When he sees Ruthye, he kneels and asks for her forgiveness, claiming he regrets what he did. In response, old Ruthye punches him and he crashes to the ground. After all, she couldn't resist doing that.
In the narration, it's revealed that in the book released by Ruthye, she wrote that Supergirl killed Krem that day on the beach. That was agreed upon to draw the thugs' vengeance, to let Supergirl cover up what they did. But in reality, they found another way to get their revenge. And so we wrap up this journey of Supergirl. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow is an excellent story, and all the events, aesthetics, scripts, and art make this work a stellar space road trip, undoubtedly creating hype for the Supergirl movie set to drop in 2026, since the premise heavily relies on building from the story I just recounted. Of course, small changes will happen, but just imagine how amazing it'll be to see some of those most iconic moments from this comic on the big screen. Are you excited for the Supergirl movie? Did you enjoy the story? Then drop a comment here with your favorite part of the storyline and what you're most looking forward to seeing in the film. Write it down, let's chat. And don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and activate the notification bell, because that's the only way you'll stay updated on the epic tales involving superheroes. And for those of you who want to see more complete story videos here on the channel, click the hype button. It's your way of signaling you want more videos like this. Thanks a ton for watching this video, and before you go, I'll leave you with 2 more complete story videos to check out and stay in the loop. Click on one of the options and dive into the story.